I believe there's life on other planets. The scriptures tell us that. And if there is life on other planets, there'll be life that's more advanced and less advanced than us. And if there are parallels with the Liahona was described as a brass ball of curious workmanship. So there's a message there of unity, a message of awareness, and this can be connected to Zion. At least I think that's my interpretation.
Welcome in here on Zion Media. I am joined by the real MacGyver. That's right, Greg MacGyver, and our usual Fabrizio Poli, all the way from England. And I'm really excited for this episode. That's right. We're talking about orbs. We're talking about aliens. We're talking about end times. And for those of you who don't know, Fabrizio is a UFologist, I think
Correct.
is how you say
Yep.
that.
So amongst many things.
He's an expert in this field, and there's been obviously over the past, I don't know, year or two, more of these orbs than I ever remember seeing. And it's almost like my TikTok algorithm is trying to have me not see these orbs anymore. They're trying to stop us from seeing these apparitions or whatever you would like to call them in the sky. And so we wanted to bring Fab on and talk about an orb that a lot of people saw. And we have a whole presentation on this. So I'm excited to jump in and discuss it. Fab, tell us a little bit first off, before we jump into the presentation, your background as being a ufologist, what that means, why you hold that title, and what ultimately got you interested in these types of things.
Well, I've been always interested in space and flying objects since I was a kid. So I set myself the goal I was going to go to space, didn't know how. So my science teacher said, write to NASA and ask, and I did. They wrote back to me. He was surprised they wrote back to me, and they said, well, you either become a pilot or a scientist. So I went down the pilot route, got my pilot's license before my driver's license, became a commercial pilot, flew private jets in for the airlines for a number of years. And while I was doing all this, I got into the subject of UFOs and started studying the whole phenomenon of UFOs. And in a way, that path led me to the church. At 26, I joined the church, which was 30 years ago. And then when I joined the church, I put all my UFO studies and that to one side, and I immersed myself completely in the gospel. Until about 5-6 years ago, where more and more people were asking me about UFOs because I'm a pilot, I fly around, so they always ask me, "Have you seen anything strange in the sky that's unidentified?" And so I thought, well, let me jump back into the UFO thing. And so I went and did a course to become a ufologist. A ufologist is basically somebody that goes and investigates sightings. Bear in mind that
Wait a second. I didn't see that when I was going to college. I didn't see that course offering. Where'd you get this?
there's 2 or 3 different outlets that offer courses in ufology.
Wow.
Not that I really needed to do a course, but having a piece of paper that says you're a ufologist, I thought, okay, well, just for the sake of it, I'll do the course. But a lot of it is based on, and this is the biggest problem with the whole UFO thing, and this is where 90% of unidentified flying objects are unidentified because the person that's seeing the object that's flying has not got a trained eye. Now, I'm an airline transport pilot, and I have a trained eye of flying objects. I can tell you when it's a satellite, which is a helicopter or a plane, if it's coming towards you or going away from you. I'm trained to see flying objects because I spend time in the sky flying around. So when you're a farmer and you're in Idaho in the middle of nowhere and you see something flying, you may interpret it as a UFO, and UFOs very often get associated with an alien spacecraft. So they think it's some dude from some planet that's flying around in his what they would call their equivalent of an SUV. When in reality, it may be Venus, it may be a flock of geese, it may be a satellite, it could be even a military experimental aircraft. And so very often, I would say 97, 98% of the time, it's explainable. And when it's not explainable, it could be one of these new technologies that man has developed. So, I mean, I believe there's life on other planets. The scriptures tell us that. And if there is life on other planets, there'll be life that's more advanced and less advanced than us. And if they are more advanced, the chances are they have been to our planet or maybe are here now amongst us. So I believe that narrative. Have I ever met a person from another planet that I know of? No. Have I seen a couple of unidentified flying objects? Yes. Could I explain what they are? No, but they're probably military experimental aircraft. That would be my explanation to that. I think these advanced civilizations that are out there, and I believe they are out there, if they come and go, and they probably are coming and going, they will only reveal themselves to certain people for certain reasons. Now, let's go in and look at this orb sighting. Shane, do I have to press something or are you pressing something?
I got it. I got it.
You got it.
I got it. Yep. There we go. Boom.
Okay, so
Oh,
as you can see here,
Can
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
can you blow the presentation up? Can we?
yeah, I can.
I don't know if you can.
There you go.
There we go.
that it?
Perfect. Yep, that's it.
Okay, now on the top there, you see the Buga orb. Buga is a town in Colombia where this thing was seen, and underneath it, you see the Liahona. So we're going to run a few parallels because I believe the Liahona was a form of technology, and it's not the only form of technology that we read about in the scriptures. Even what Joseph Smith used to translate the Book of Mormon, I think that was a form of technology as well. It
Right.
works in
The Ark of the Covenant could have been a form of technology as well.
Exactly. And there are many different things, and we may want to do an episode on technology from the Bible and from the scriptures. So now on this Buga orb, this thing was actually flying around over the city, and then it crashed, and a gentleman retrieved it and gave it to a company there locally to analyze. And then the company were a bit afraid that it was going to blow up or do something strange. They tried to open it, they analyzed it, they did all sorts of things. And then they gave it back to this guy who then gave it to this researcher in Mexico, took it to Mexico. And so we'll get into that in a minute. But so this was seen at the end of March this year. This orb was flying around. It's a ball. It's a flying ball in Buga, Colombia. There were a number of witnesses. It's on video. You can see it on YouTube. If you dial in Buga orb, you can see videos of it. Interestingly enough, it weighs 2 kilos, which is about just over 4 pounds. Initially, that's what it weighed. When they took it into this company's laboratory, it actually increased in weight to 20 pounds. So that's an interesting thing. It was described as cold to touch, but causes water to steam instantly. No seams, no welds, seamless metallic finish, which is interesting because the ship that Nephi built to travel to America was the same. It had no welds, no seams, and it was finished in a certain way. So there's a commonality there. And obviously, as you can see, there's some symbology on there. And we'll get into the symbology in a few slides. So they ran some analysis on this orb. And this is what they discovered. The X-ray scans revealed 3 concentric layers, 18 microspheres around a central chip, density similar to titanium or steel, advanced engineering, no fabrication marks. And as I said before, when it was retrieved, it weighed 4.4 pounds. And then afterwards, a few hours later, it increased to 22 pounds in weight. Now, that's interesting because I don't know of anything that can increase in weight 10 times without you doing anything to it. So that's a bit of a mystery. And again, when I say mystery, it doesn't mean it comes from an alien planet. It's a mystery. So it could be some advanced form of technology. Next, as you can see, the symbology there, we've got 4-fold symmetry, arcs, triangles, circles. We've got a central circuit-like pattern in the middle. Rings of symbols with no known alphabet match. We did run an AI analysis on this, which we'll show you a bit later, on the symbols. And we do find some commonality with what we've found in a number of artifacts and that around the world. Now, here we go. Egyptian hieroglyphics, shapes, combinations, sacred text structure. There's some similarity to Sumerian cuneiform, Norse runes. And the common theme is that this was communication from higher intelligence. So this is very, very interesting. Now, there are parallels with the Liahona. The Liahona was described as a brass ball of curious workmanship, functioned via faith, navigation and divine instruction. Writing appeared on the surface. It shared motives of spherical shape, mysterious function, and spiritual message. So there are some similarities between the Liahona and this orb.
Does that sound like this? Like everything you just described kind of sounds like like this.
Wait, I can't see it.
This is my phone. Oh, okay.
Okay,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
I mean, what you just described is this curious ball of workmanship maybe I have in my hand right here, especially if I use Chat GPT the right way, then it becomes very curious.
As a
Yes.
curious rectangle of workmanship.
Yeah, but it's interesting because the Liahona worked according to faith.
That's right. This
And we know that when they didn't have faith, it stopped functioning.
this functions no matter what, and it can function for good or for evil. Okay, go ahead and blow your screen back up. But I think that's interesting that we do have amazing technology that we have today.
Yeah, so I mean, the question is, where did the Liahona come from? That's another question, which you can put out there. Now, the Liahona, let's just look into some scriptures here. Now, while Lehi and his family were camping out in the wilderness, the Liahona was found one morning at Lehi's tent door. It's not named as a Liahona at that point. They gave it the name later. It was described as a brass ball of curious workmanship with two spindles, one of which indicated direction that his party should travel. And you can find that in 1 Nephi 16:10. Then on occasion, writing appeared on the ball, as you just said, Shane, that displayed additional instructions from God. Using the Liahona, Lehi and his party traveled through the wilderness and across an ocean. So it takes them about 8 years to get down to the southern part of Oman, where they stay for 3 years, and then they build the ship, and then they cross the waters, which took them about 12 months to get to the Americas. And during all this time, the Liahona is guiding them. But there were times when they weren't righteous and they weren't faithful, and the Liahona stopped functioning. And that's kind of how the Liahona worked. And this is important to understand. But there are some similarities between this Liahona, at least with the symbology that we find on this orb. Now, there's circular design elements in facsimile number 2. So there's a connection to the Pearl of Great Price, column and celestial mechanics symbology, directional themes and cosmic orientation, blend of technology and spirituality. So there are some connections with what we find in the symbology from the Pearl of Great Price and what's on this orb. Now, this gentleman here is an Italian ufologist, Pier Giorgio Correa, who actually traveled to Mexico the other week to have a look at this orb and analyze it himself, together with a gentleman who now has it and owns it, who is Jaime Mosan, who has his own TV channel in Mexico. And they've done quite a lot of analysis on this and tried to open it up and all that kind of thing. And they are right now doing some more analysis on this orb to try and figure out what it is. The material composition is the first thing, which is interesting to look at. The outer shell is high density, likely titanium-like alloy. No one has said yet that this is built of materials that we can't find on Earth. So we're waiting to hear that. Multiple metal types were used to build this. Of course, the interesting thing is the thermal anomaly, the cold exterior and intense inner heat. The adverse health effects, nausea, fatigue reported by the handlers. So those that have been close to this thing, they feel a bit sick afterwards. So we can't really explain that. That could be something to do with some radiation that this thing is emitting. So that's an interesting thing. Now, we ran an AI analysis of the symbology, and this is what we found. The origin of birth through union and energy consciousness suggests message of transformation, unity, and awareness, echoes esoteric and spiritual philosophies. So there's a message there of unity, a message of awareness, and this can be connected to Zion. At least I think that's my interpretation. If this is coming from somebody up there, whether it's coming from God or it's coming from an advanced civilization that sent this drone, let's call it an alien drone, or this could be something else, which we'll go into later. Now, let's look at the comparative overview between the Buga orb and the Liahona. So, in appearance, seamless metallic sphere, brass ball, so it's kind of similar. Function, unknown symbolic messaging, directional divine communication in the Liahona's case. So, there's some form of message there. Obviously, the Liahona was communicating, so it was giving different types of messages, but we don't know if this Buga orb can actually communicate, apart from the symbology that's engraven on it. Geometric unclassified glyphs, faith-based inscriptions, which according to Lehi, were on the Liahona. And the origin, sky descent. So the Buga orb came from the sky, while the Liahona was a supernatural appearance. It kind of just appeared outside Lehi's tent. We don't know if it landed there. It could have come from the sky and landed there. We don't know. Somebody may have put it there. We don't know. We just know that Lehi opened his tent one morning and found it there. So, conclusion. obviously, this book all challenges known science and archaeology. It could present advanced lost civilization. It could be an extraterrestrial artifact. It could be spiritual technology. It could be built by China and sent out, or it could be built by some mad scientist in his garage that just did a bit of search on ancient languages and that, and decided to engraven those symbols on there to make us think that maybe this is coming from some alien. So this is kind of the analysis on this thing here. I think it's probably man-made, and I'm sorry to disappoint maybe those that are watching. I think the probability of it being man-made is some form of new technology. Now, these orbs have been seen, as Shane was saying, around the world. We had one right close to me just a few months ago at Manchester Airport, which disrupted air travel. It was flying around the airport, was stopping in front of airplanes and then flying up and down. It never got caught, though. It then flew off. A person that I know that actually investigated the whole thing told me that they reckon it was a Chinese drone. That was their analysis of it. This is slightly different. This actually got caught and is now in the hands of not a government, but of civilians that are analyzing this thing. So it's very, very interesting. I'll be curious to see the analysis of the metal and seeing if this metal is something that's here on Earth or if it's of extraterrestrial origin. I think that will tell us if it's something from Earth or not. But it's certainly an interesting phenomenon. It's something that, that hasn't happened. Well, it has happened in the past, but, this has been very much out there, even though the mainstream media haven't covered it much. And that could be an interesting indicator. Why isn't the mainstream media talking about this? Because this is a discovery which, could really revolutionize society if it is of extraterrestrial origin. And I reckon, it needs to be looked at very, very carefully.
Well, there are a lot of people that talk about Area 51 and advanced technology, Tesla being intercepted by the FBI, all of his documents, a lot of interesting things that are a little misty, causing a mystery because we don't have all the information.
Yeah, well, I think one of the big interesting points, MacGyver, is the fact that it was seen in Colombia, and it wasn't seen in a major city. It was seen in an agricultural town. And I think the location can maybe tell us something about what this really is. It wasn't seen over LA or Salt Lake City or London. No, or Manchester Airport like the other one. This was actually landed, and I think it purposely landed to get caught and analyzed.
Well, it's going to be interesting. You'll definitely have to keep us up to date on that orb. Um, I have never seen one personally, although a friend of mine lived in Flagstaff. I was visiting his place, and he said, "Look over there. These are unexplained lights in the sky." And there was a military base over there. So he says there's advanced technology that we don't know about in the U.S. military or the Space Force, etc.
Yeah. I mean, we recently did an episode with Mauro Biglino, the Italian biblical scholar, and he was mentioning that a lot of the things that are in the Bible, in the Old Testament in particular, kind of point to aliens visiting this planet. And there's more and more of that kind of stuff coming out. And even in the Bible, there's a lot of flying objects and that, and technologies, or what we could perceive as technology. I mean, as I said before, whoever sees this flying object will describe it with their own vocabulary and based on their experience in life and education. And that's why when I investigate a UFO sighting, very often you start asking the right questions and you discover that it's not an alien spacecraft. It's just an airplane or a satellite or Venus or some visual effect of some sort, or even somebody flying their own drone. Because these days a lot of people have drones. But, we got to remember that there are a lot of people tinkering around in their garage. And this could be somebody tinkering in their garage and decided to take it to Colombia and fly it around. Because imagine if this was found in the United States. What do you think would have happened if this had been flying over Las Vegas or Salt Lake City and then landed?
Yeah. Now, I read a book back in the 80s, and it talked about UFOs throughout history, and it goes back millennia. It's not just a recent phenomenon. There's history documents that talk about these strange things in the sky, and Ezekiel is one thing in the Bible that is very, very well described, at least to his perception. But it's not a recent phenomenon at all for these things to be in our sky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Spencer W. Kimball in his book Faith Precedes the Miracle, he talks about this. He says, and I'm reading it, I quote, he says, "Is there extraterrestrial conversation? Certainly. Man may speak to God and receive answers from him. Is there association of non-human beings? There is, no question. Are planets out in space inhabited by intelligent creatures? Without a doubt." I mean, this is the prophet at the time that wrote the book Faith Precedes a Miracle,
Yeah.
talking about this stuff. And certainly Moroni coming to Joseph Smith, I mean, even though he was a part of this earth, he could have been considered an extraterrestrial at that moment of him visiting Joseph Smith. So,
Well, you know that is actually in Ancient Aliens. You know the TV show Ancient Aliens?
yeah,
They show the Moroni visiting Joseph Smith thing.
fascinating. So, Fab, when do you think
Mhm.
they make contact with us? When do you think that it's like, okay, they're here, they make contact. Are we going to see that day? Is that day coming? Are we seeing this increase in orb activity? Is that a sign of maybe them saying, "Hey, we're about to make contact. We're going to slowly but surely do this," or what do you think? What's going on?
Well, I mean, let's go back to Joseph Smith. Okay, now Joseph Smith lived in New York. He lived on a farm. He was 14 years old. He was an innocent young man, curious, and Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ met with him. They didn't go in the center of New York to some scholar. Now, when we look at, there's a couple of quite important UFO stories. One being that of George Adamski, who was a Californian guy who met with this alien in the desert of California a number of times. And this guy looked like us. He was quite tall but blonde, blue eyes. There's another case, which is very interesting, of this guy in Switzerland that met with an alien a number of times and filmed it. Both George Adamski and Billy Meyer, who's the guy in Switzerland, have taken very clear photographs of these alien spacecraft. And in the case of Billy Meyer, NASA actually went over to analyze the footage that this guy had taken. Bear in mind, this man only had one arm. So he could only use one arm to film stuff. Steven Spielberg offered him a lot of money to figure out what special effects he used. And he just turned around and said, "I didn't use any special effects. I just filmed what I saw." So these are two interesting cases. But the interesting part of these two cases is that these were two humble men with not lots of education, similar to Joseph Smith. And so when Heavenly Father Jesus Christ revealed all the information that we have today, the Book of Mormon, everything, and Moroni and that, all to Joseph Smith, these UFO sightings, these aliens that met with individuals, met with people in remote locations. Now, it seems like this is the way it's going, but let's face it, you just have to look at some of the sci-fi movies. You know, if the aliens were to reveal themselves officially, there's going to be the deep state are going to want to get their hands on the technology to make money and enslave us even more. Unfortunately, this is what would actually happen. And so I think if I were an alien and and I'm observing this planet and I want to interact with some people, I would probably go and visit Shane.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode and supporting Zion Media. Today's episode is brought to you by Oraqel Code. You've never heard of Oraqel Code? Well, listen, get yours today. Your spiritual Oracle Code and your temporal Oracle Code. All they need is your birthday, and they can run for you what your Oracle codes are and tell you what your spiritual gifts are and your temporal gifts only based on your birthday. We have found these to be extremely accurate. And what you also get is you get your Oracle Code song. That's right, a personalized song exactly about you. Many have called it their patriarchal song and is having a huge impact. Listen, it's only $99. I promise it will be the best 99 bucks you can spend to better know who you are and what your mission is here upon this earth.
But I wouldn't visit Shane where I'd visit Shane when he drives out into the desert. I'd land in front of him or beam him up to my ship and have a chat with him. I would go for people that are open, people that would want to know these people and not try and make money out of them.
Right.
And I think the problem here, and you probably read the book Return from Riser, which is a great science fiction novel written by a member of the church, and apparently it's based on reality. And he talks about Purbia in his book, and Purbia is when people are what's the word? Prideful, saying that this planet has this disease called pride. And you've got to be careful, alien, Mr. Alien, if you're going to visit the planet Earth, or Terra as they call it, that the people down there are affected by this superbia, they call it. And I think that is one of the problems with society today. We know that the fall of the Nephite nation happened because of pride. And so if you're the alien with all the technology you have, because obviously you've got all this technology, and if you have all this technology, you're probably more evolved spiritually as well. You probably live on a higher realm,
Right.
whether it's celestial or whether it's celestial but not terrestrial. You're on an advanced plane more than we are here on Earth right now. You're going to want to interact with people that are going to understand and respect you.
Right.
Just like the same with Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith didn't take the gold plates and went to sell them. No, he did what he was told to do. He translated it, the Book of Mormon, and then he followed instruction and set up the church, following Jesus Christ and Heavenly Father's instruction. And Moroni was key in making that happen. But Joseph was open to do this, and I think the aliens are doing the same thing. I mean, I think we've got two types of visitations happening right now. We've got the visitations of angels and that's happening. We've heard stories of people that have seen angels, and then we've got the actual aliens that are visiting. Some of them may be among us. Some people say they look like us. Some of them don't look like us. They say there are lots of different races visiting this planet right now. Now, have I met with any of them? I don't know. I don't think so. But it's hard for me to believe that we wouldn't be visited, because God's created all these stars out there and all these planets, and we're told worlds without number. That's what we're told in the temple. And you think that those worlds without number wouldn't have people living on there? Some of these people have been living longer than us, so there'll be civilizations thousands of years ahead of us technologically, but also spiritually. Wouldn't they be able to visit Earth? Of course, they'll visit, but they'll probably have to follow a law as far as not interfering and let us, with our own free will, develop. I mean, you don't want to put, super high tech, maybe technology that's 500 years ahead of us in the hands of the wrong people here. You want us to take those baby steps. When you don't let a child of 5 drive a car. The child has to grow and be, old enough and mature enough to be able to drive a car. It's the same with technology. A lot of technology these days is used badly, but if you're going to give advanced technology in the hands of somebody, they need to be ready.
What were the experiences that you witnessed?
Well, one was on the ground. I was living in Italy at the time. It was on the lake, Lake Maggiore, which is in the northern part of Italy, and it was a white light that was moving above a mountain at night, and then suddenly another light separated, and it went off very, very fast into the sky and then disappeared. Now, about 5,000-6,000 people witnessed this that evening. It was in the papers the next day, and I saw it. I think it was probably some sort of technology developed by man. That was one thing. Another time I was flying a 737 into Naples, and there was a triangular flying object below me. And that may be in a TR-3B. The TR-3B, and you can Google it, is a triangular flying object. They reckon it comes out of Skunk Works from Lockheed Martin. It flies very, very fast. It's very silent, very quiet. I've spoken to a number of people that have seen it up close, very close, like flying over them. It makes a humming noise. And that's interesting. Some say this is reverse engineered from alien technology by Lockheed Martin. Some say Lockheed Martin developed it themselves out of the Skunk Works project. And it's one of these secret flying machines that the Americans are operating right now. But I did a video about this a few years ago on my channel, BizJet TV. And I interviewed this guy who's a historian, aviation historian, and we talked about the TR-3B. And the shocking thing is, it's had almost 200,000 views, the video, but there's over 100 people that have commented that they've seen this thing, even recently as of last week, somewhere in the world. And there's comments from all over the world of people that are constantly seeing this TR-3B. And that's what I think I saw. But is it an alien ship? I don't know.
Well, I was living in Phoenix when, in 1993, the Phoenix Lights event, and I didn't see it personally, but I was
Okay.
inside the house and the news that evening or the next day. It was just blew up all the channels, all the newspapers, and everybody was talking about it. And the governor, Simonton at the time, he kind of made a joke out of it, but he actually saw it, and years later, he he kinda repented. He changed his tune and said, "Yeah, I didn't know what it was, but I was just making fun of it as governor because we didn't know what to do or say." The military was denying everything. Everybody was denying everything, but it was mi more than a mile large in a triangular shape, going slow without a sound, and witnessed by thousands of people. So there's just some very, very interesting things that have been happening recently.
Well, I can tell you, and I'm not gonna get into it, but I can tell you from my own personal experience, that extraterrestrials, uh, they're real.
Yep.
So I won't get into my own personal experience. I know that, but, um, yeah, they're real, and, I have heard,
You can't
people
do that,
say,
Shane. You can't say,
well,
"I'm not gonna tell you," and then
let me just let me just tell you that while some people see a blonde hair, blue-eyed, what I met was a silver-haired, blue-eyed person that didn't look old, that looked like they were in their 30s, but very silver hair.
and you know the
Anyways,
comments are gonna blow up here on that, right?
oh, trust me.
Well,
And I
let's throw this question out there, Shane. Now, how does the whole alien thing fit into the plan of salvation?
That's a really good question. I have a lot of thoughts on that, but I am curious what you think and how it fits in. I mean, clearly we do know this in the temple. Literally says Satan says, "I see you have a new world here, patterned after the old one we used to live on." Okay, well, we know that there are other worlds that people live on. So that's a thing, but I'm curious, Fab, how do you think it fits in?
Well, I mean, and I always tell people this, in particular people that have issues with faith, with their faith, with our faith. You know, there are people that are on the edge right now. Maybe you who are watching right now are wondering about certain things. Now, the gospel is a personal development path. And the gospel of Jesus Christ teaches us the way. When we go to the temple, we live, we make these 5 covenants with Heavenly Father to live by these laws. And that commitment is a daily commitment, 24/7. And Jesus Christ shows us the way, the whole how the atonement plays in, whatever. So if I'm sure that Jesus visited other planets and showed them the same things that he showed us. Now, there are probably civilizations out there that are more advanced, but they're on the path like we are. And they probably have the gospel like we do. And it would be so interesting to visit another planet and go to church on another planet. But Jesus visited, we know he visited Jerusalem. We know he visited the Americas. He probably visited other parts of the world as well. But he also probably visited other planets and other people out there. Now, some of these races out there will look like us, but I've always wondered, on this planet right now, we have different races. We've got uh, people of color. We've got people with different slant of eyes. We got tall people. We got short people. We got people from different races already on this planet. Um, so how did they get here? Because I mean, I believe that Adam and Eve were here, but then after Adam and Eve were here, people from other places came here as well. And that would explain the different colors of skin and the different races that we have on this planet. Well,
Well,
that's just my interpretation.
well, I think it's wilder than that because Joseph Smith, didn't he say in Revelation that some things were symbolic, certain beasts were symbolic, and then others were actually creatures worshiping at the throne of God that were not looking like humans. Do you recall that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's gotta be, I mean, the creativity and the, imagination of our creator is greater than what we give him credit
I
for.
mean, the whole story of the city of Enoch. Some of these science fiction, programs like Stargate. I find Stargate extremely fascinating. But even Star Trek, they reckon that Gene Roddenberry was influenced by aliens. in developing the whole Star Trek world. But even the whole story of Stargate linked to the ancient Egypt. I mean, the whole mystery around the pyramids is quite shocking, and what they discovered under the pyramid just recently, that's very interesting. People that have gone into the pyramids with all sorts of gadgetry to try and see what type of energy is being emanated. Or if you look at Adam's calendar down in South Africa, which Michael Tellinger talks about, that's an interesting thing. It's like a bit of a Stonehenge, and when you walk inside this round circle, your cell phone stops working. But when you step outside, it starts working again. And they took all sorts of scientists down there to try and figure out what this Adam's calendar was. And then in the end, he brought a psychic down there, and the psychic said it's a portal to another world. She was the only one that could come up with, I'm not going to say a proper explanation, but at least an explanation.
Yes.
So you know, these are all things that are out there in history. I mean, just the program Ancient Aliens, you know, a lot of questions surface out of there. But you know, there are people on other planets that are following the plan of salvation. You know, we basically lived a life before. We come down, we acquire a human body, we live this life on Earth. We have to kind of rediscover who we are. Some find out about the gospel in this life, some afterwards. And then we die and we go back to Heavenly Father. Now, how do other worlds play into this? Could it be that maybe we did live on another planet before, and maybe we lived on different planets, and then we were sent to this planet to have this earthly experience, and then we get sent back? That's one explanation. Does that mean that people on other planets can actually visit here and interact with us? Probably, if they're allowed to. But again, this is not for everybody. I mean, some people would freak out if suddenly a flying saucer was to land on the lawn of the White House. I think it would freak a lot of people out. So I think, you know, this so-called disclosure that they're talking about, I think the aliens are coming and going. They are amongst us. And they are meeting with certain people that are ready. And sometimes they may meet with you and you don't know that you're meeting with one of them. So, you know,
Well,
but there is certainly something going on.
yeah.
Something going on, and they're not telling us the full story.
Wasn't it last year the United States released videos of unidentified flying objects?
Yeah, the TikTok, the Tic Tac. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got just high advanced technology that Star Trek, the writers of Star Trek, they talked about how they came up with the tricorder and different communication devices. They would look to science fiction, they would look to mystical kind of things, and then they would talk to technical advisors. Is this a reality? Is it possible? Well,
That's how Steve Jobs invented the iPad, by watching Star Trek. They had an iPad on the bridge of the Enterprise, and then he said, "Well, how can I come up with something like that?" Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
He even tells the story. He even tells the story.
Well, I do feel like we are entering a time period where this is going to become more commonplace, more information. Nothing shall be withheld, as they say. And we need to keep an open mind. I mean, however you think God is going to work his work, you should probably think the opposite. And that's probably more likely than whatever it is you're thinking, because his ways, as Isaiah says, are not our ways. And neither his thoughts are our thoughts, right? So he's going to do
Shane,
different.
Shane, here's an interesting thing. If you compare, now the church was reorganized in 1830. Okay. Now, if you compare life in 1830 to life in 1730 or 1230, they were pretty much the same. You would travel on horseback. There was no electricity. You know, people lived the same way between 2030 and 1830. But between 1830 and 1930,
Big difference.
massive change. And between 1930 and today, even more changes.
And what happened?
Question is, what happened in
Moroni,
1830?
the Grove, I mean, all of those experiences happening right then, that light, that energy, that seal being broken, whatever you want to call it, has allowed for further light, further knowledge, further technology to come to the earth. And I think it's only getting more and more. Well, this has been fascinating.
That's another clear evidence that the Book of Mormon is real and true. Because since the Book of Mormon has officially been here on the earth and the church has been reorganized, look at the massive jump in technology that we've had. Look at the massive change in the way we live today compared to 1830 and prior to 1830. Now, probably, I think that, mankind is more spiritually evolved today than back then. And so the technology is being revealed gradually. But how do the aliens play into this? Was there more advanced technology before? I mean, just think of Enoch and the city of Zion that was then translated, or did they just take off and go elsewhere?
And who says that we aren't aliens ourselves?
Exactly. That's another thing.
And there's a lot of light coming to the earth. And I listen, I don't know if it's technology or just the times that we live in, but when you look at photographs of people from 200 years ago, they weren't that good looking. Like the people were not very good looking people. And I don't know if that's just because of whatever, but today we have beautiful people on the earth, and beauty is a sign of light. So maybe these higher, more intelligent beings are here. They're just walking around and they pass through the veil and they don't remember how powerful they are. And so there are maybe aliens among us having a mortal experience, but there are certainly aliens that are in a different frequency, a different place, and they're coming to the earth. Okay. Well, I want to wrap this up. This has been an interesting combo. And again, I think we're going to see more and more of these types of experiences happening. And we need to make sure that we just don't discount that. We need to remind ourselves as Latter-day Saints that we believe in a guy named Moroni that came to Joseph Smith and showed him where some golden plates were, and that he was given all sorts of technology in order to translate them, and that, Peter, James, and John visited him as well. And if we go to 1836, a whole host of people visited him. So we believe in these things. These things are happening, and I think they're going to happen even more. Fab, thank you so much for coming on and discussing this. The Real MacGyver, thanks for your contribution here. As we know, David the Lion Douglas, send out prayers for him. He is having his 6th child. So he is busy taking care of his other 5 kids while his wife is pain to be delivered, as the scriptures would say. And Trevor is running around trying to manage all of these sales guys. So MacGyver, thanks for filling in. Listen, if you like this video, smash that like button. And if you haven't ordered your Oraqel code, it's in the description. Go and order it. Get your code. Get your song. It's super cool. It's super fun. We have people that say, I listen to my song. The very first thing when I start my day, I listen to my song, and I listen to it 5 times in a row. It really is a beautiful thing. So if you haven't got your Oraqel code, go and get it. Listen, share this, like this. And again, thank you for supporting us here at Zion Media. We cover a wide variety of topics, from the lost doctrines of the restoration to UFOs and orbs and everything in between. And so we're trying to do the best job we can to tie the gospel into everything that is going on. My brothers and sisters, I can tell you this: Jesus Christ lives. The atonement works. And you can find him in so many different places, whether that's the temple that is being built, or whether that's you go on a hike up in the mountains. You can seek him because he is where you are. So anyways, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you guys all next time. Where truth is